Great, terrific. Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our online event, Where Can I Go with a Music Degree? Thank you to everyone returning and a big welcome to everyone who's joining us for the first time. So my name is Dr. Cindy Tong, and I'm a pianist on faculty at Acadia University in Nova Scotia. And I'm one of the co-organizers of this event alongside Dr. Amy Hillis from York University and LARA DEUTSCH from Carleton University. So we've been really excited about the level of participation and all the enthusiasm, and we're super excited about our panelists today. So yesterday we really discussed many important kind of topics, including cultivation of extra musical skills as a musician, how to fund your projects, how to cultivate artistic identity. And we started dipping our toes into this discussion of the many different ways that musicians and creatives can go about having a diverse, sustainable career. So today we'll be pivoting towards that topic. We'll be talking about multidisciplinary careers and exploring the question, how do you manage a performing arts career while actively working in another domain? So before we dive into that and introduce our panelists, just a few housekeeping items. So we do have our chat open. Feel free to interact, say hi, tell us where you're from. We'd be very happy to hear from you. However, that won't be moderated for questions. So if you do have something you'd like to ask one of the panelists, please put that into the Q&A. We'll have that set up for the final 20 minutes of the session. So if there's someone who you'd like to ask a question to, please plop that in there. And that will be actively monitored. And we'll do our best to get through as many as we can. If you'd like to learn more about the rest of the events happening, the rest of today, over the weekend, you can check out our website, wherecanigowithmusic.com. So without further ado, I will introduce our wonderful panelists and we'll get this wonderful discussion going. So first we have Amelia Lyon, who is the principal flute of the Kingston Symphony. She has a bachelor and master's of music from McGill. She is also the owner of Yarns Untangled, which is a beautiful craft boutique founded in 2015 in the Kensington Market in Toronto. It's dedicated to a beautiful selection of the best yarns available with a special focus on hand dyeing from makers across Canada. There's a beautiful brick and mortar store, and there's also an online boutique you can check out. Gorgeous array of yarns, really must go if you're a yarn and knitting aficionado. And they also offer a variety of knitting and crochet classes, which is just amazing. So really excited to have Amelia here to talk about how all of that works together.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Beth McKenna, who is a jazz saxophonist, a composer, a big band leader, and a recording artist. Incredible number of hats. Her ensemble was winner of the Prix Opus for Creation of the Year, and her album Beyond Here was also a finalist for the Grand Prix du Jazz TD, which is affiliated with the Montreal International Jazz Festival. She was named one of the top 5 Canadian women in jazz to watch. So that's really exciting. And alongside all of these musical activities, she's also a lead technical recruiter with Avid, which is a multimedia technology company that develops audio and video editing software. So she's essentially a human resource specialist finding candidates to fill very technical roles. So welcome, Beth. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Cindy.
And we have Melissa Scott, who is the principal oboe of the Kingston Symphony. She regularly performs with this ensemble, as well as the TSO, Toronto Symphony, and the NAC, National Arts Orchestra, amongst others. She's also an instructor at Queen's University and the Royal Conservatory of Music. And she's also the owner and founder of Sandpiper Oboe Boutique, which offers some of the finest oboe and English horn care and maintenance accessories, cane, reed making tools from knives, plaques, threads, you name it. And they also have a fun bookstore and a gift store as well. So please do check out that boutique, especially if you are an oboe or English horn player. Incredible array of oboe craftsmanship from around the world, some of which I believe is unique in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. So very big welcome to Melissa, and really excited to hear more about that.
Hello, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Kristan Toczko, who is a harpist, a teacher, performer. She was a first place winner of the OSM Life competition and named a CBC Radio Young Artist. She's also a graphic designer and the art director at Leaf Music, which is a classical music label in Atlanta, Canada, and we'll also be having Jeremy later today. She's responsible for the album art and design of releases, and I believe she's been responsible for upwards of 50 album covers so far. And so besides digital art, she also does ink calligraphy and commissioned artworks. And I believe this led to Kristan Toczko designs in 2021. So you can check that out for more info. Alongside this, she's also a brilliant social media content creator. Having opened a channel in 2020, she has over 2.5 million followers on TikTok and nearly 400,000 on Instagram, with a mission to make harp and classical music more accessible, and through a question of, is this harpable? So we're really excited to have you on board. So thank you, Kristan, for joining us. Great. So I suppose what we'll do, because this roundtable is really quite fascinating in the sense that we're discussing how it's possible to balance a performing arts career while doing something else. I guess my first question would be to maybe ask each of you to provide an overview of how you ended up with your specific kind of complementary area of work. How is it that it's possible to, combine what seems like two very different interests into a career that, brought you to where you are today? Maybe we can start with Melissa.
Sure. Well, mine's more complementary to what I do, but it all started with me dabbling in oboe repair because it's really hard to rely on other people. A lot of things happen with oboes, and it's good to be self-reliant. So I did a lot of research and sought out, top repair people and learn how to do these things. So people started to get to know me about with the oboe repair, and then I heard around, that it was kind of difficult for people to find supplies in Canada. And I found it frustrating that there wasn't a place that had everything I wanted. So at first I was like, okay, I'll open a business catering to the professional. But it ended up being a little more like student through professional. But yeah, I just decided this was a need. And my good friend Amelia also inspired me with her store, Yarns Untangled. So I thought, oh, maybe I could try doing this. Oh, that's how it all started.
Oh, it's amazing. And so often we find, right, that there is almost this this thing that we ourselves are encountering, and there's like a little niche that we wish something existed. And if someone was able to fill that, it's often that we're not the only person having that sentiment. I'm curious then, since Amelia seems to have been a big part of this inspiration, if you mind sharing a bit of your story of how Yarns Untangled came to be.
Sure. So I started music at a young age, as I'm sure is true for a lot of us. But I was always kind of crafty as well. Music was not an optional thing in our family. Everybody played at least one instrument and took lessons and all of that. And I think crafting was something that was just mine, and just entirely my thing. And I had picked it up and put it down from time to time over the years. And then when I went to university and realized how stressed I was all the time, this was, my knitting and my crochet was something I could do that would calm me down and be kind of pure, like it just belonged to me and was my my comfort activity. And I had always kind of, you'll talk to knitters and crocheters who will all say like, oh, I have a dream to run a yarn store. And mostly what it is we just want to be in a room full of yarn. But it was something that, I had always kind of thought, well, when music doesn't work out, I'll do that down the road. But after I'd finished my master's degree, I moved to Toronto and I needed to work. I didn't have enough of a career to keep me afloat. And I hadn't really found teaching was doing it for me. I wasn't enjoying it. And so I got a job at a local yarn store. and worked there for a little while, and then it closed. The people who were running it, it wasn't a good fit for them, and it closed. And so I opened up my own shop in the exact same location. I had been the face of their business for about 3 years. And so our customer base kind of knew who I was and knew my expertise, which was chiefly self-taught until I had started working there, at which point, you know, you pick up things and take classes and that kind of thing. And so it was sort of like as they closed, I realized that I was never going to have a better opportunity to start smoothly. And so I just figured, you know, this is something I've always wanted to do. And then while we were in the process of opening the business and getting everything organized, I took the audition for the Kingston Symphony. And happened to win that audition and sort of was like, well, how am I going to do this? But yeah, so now I do both and it works. I have really excellent staff at the store, and that's chiefly why. But yeah, that's my story.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Especially, it almost happened in an order where it was unexpected to the
That's
principal
right.
position after.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. How about you, Beth? How did you end up working it with Avid?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So I started working in student recruitment quite early in my life. When I was at McGill, I started as a Shillick ambassador, which then turned into becoming like more of a like assistant manager in recruiting there. I went from part-time work to full-time work because I got an alcohol-related fine during second year Frosh Week in the Plateau for having an open beer running between two houses. So I see Amelia cracking up here. I actually don't drink, but that was back when I'd be like a one beer person. Anyway, so that being said, I worked in recruitment all through my studies while doing a BMUS and a BEd program at McGill. And then I finished up I loved recruiting. I loved the whole meeting people, get to know people, getting to go deeper, doing the marketing, the promotion, the branding, all that was a lot of fun. But I did that while also studying my music degree. It was a lot. That being said, I then went into teaching. I used my BEd for a few years and I started my big band. Did that until about 2016, 2017. You know, went back into recruiting after that, did recruiting, MBA recruiting, which then went essentially while I was still gigging the whole time. I'm still gigging, I'm still running, like I'm still putting out albums, I'm still doing sessions, I'm still playing at festivals, I'm still touring. I'm still doing a lot of that stuff. And I am then still being able to do work on the side. So I'm still working full-time, 40 hours a week job. I was working at Concordia, and then I essentially went into talent acquisition. But the thing is that I always had an employer that had enough vacation time. So I did that. I made sure that my employer knew that I was a musician and I was upfront about that. Not that they weren't important, but that I kind of run a two-pronged career life. So my current work at Avid is actually the company behind the popular tools Pro Tools and Sibelius. So we manage those. I hired teams of developers for Sibelius. I hired teams of devs for Pro Tools. Also for the media and the film stuff, I hire for those. Avid has a unlimited vacation policy. I don't abuse it, but they understand that I'm an artist and I also use their tools and that I am also a performer. So I'm in a workplace where there's lots of other performers and other people who are artists and creatives as well. So that kind of what always helped me. Before that, I worked at Unity Technologies and Gaming. Again, another area I'm very, very, very excited about. Same thing. They had about 5 weeks of PTO per year of paid time off. So that again allowed me to have my weekends free, as well as time to do gigs here and there as I wanted and plan tours.
Oh wow, that's quite the trajectory as well. I would be curious if the PTO, the paid time off for Avid, or a lot of these vacation policies change the demographic of individuals who might work for those companies, for example, if just kind of a reflective question.
PTO policies do change who works for the company. I've had companies approach me with like 2-week PTO policies and I tell them no way. And I shut the door right there. I'm like, I need enough time to still be an artist. I still need enough time to go, again, yes, doing gigs upstairs, a jazz bar here in Montreal, or to do a short weekend trip to Toronto or things like that for gigs. Fine, it doesn't take PTO, but I need to still balance my life outside of that. I still need to have time off to rest between doing the work for you, the 40 hours a week for this corporation I'm working for, plus my own creative side as well. So it is something that I make sure that I at least have 3 to 4 weeks of PTO in any role that I work, and that's not including statutory holidays.
And that's actually really, I'm so happy you kind of mentioned that as well, because maybe it's very possible. I mean, that it's really helpful to know that there is work out there that does include and has that possibility upfront of even unlimited vacation time. Who's ever heard of that? Unlimited vacation time. But to know that if, if you're someone maybe who has multiple interests and wants to tackle different things, that there are situations and circumstances where that is possible from the employer's standpoint as well. So really, thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
It's probably very helpful to hear. How about you, Kristan? Really curious how you how this is culminated in this explosive media presence.
Yeah, well, let me start first with my art. So my interest in art has always been there alongside music. Apparently, I was quite not talented at art when I was a kid. I was put in art lessons, and apparently I was not great at all. But I practiced lots, and I enjoyed it so much. So to the point where when I was deciding what I wanted to do for university, I was heavily deciding between going into music or studying art and graphic design. So I obviously chose music. I'm here today as a harpist, but art has always been a part of me, and I've always continued it on the side. And it was in my undergrad when I got into Leaf music. Jeremy, one of my closest friends, I've known him for ages. We were all in a friend group in our undergrad, and we ended up recording a mini album together. Because I think at that time, I think he was started to be interested in sound engineering. So we did this like Celtic CD, and I was playing Celtic harp on it, and he was playing fiddle, and we had some other people on it as well. And then we were like, oh, we want to like make a little CD of this. And like, wait, Kristan has graphic skills. Maybe you can design this. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. So I could create this little like album that, like basic cover and back tray and everything. And that's kind of how it got started. And then Jeremy created Leaf Music and asked me to do some of the art for it. And that's kind of how I got started with Leaf. And it just took off from there. And I've been their graphic designer ever since the beginning, which has been super fun. And then Kristan Toczko Designs came to be during the pandemic, actually, when all of my harp performance work had gotten canceled. I was just like, you know what, let's test the waters here. Like, I love art. It's been a while since I've gone into, besides Leaf music stuff, that I've gone into like doing other parts of art that I enjoy, and now I have the time for it. So I started that and just advertising for that. And I actually did get quite a few bookings when I did start that, and then things picked up again, and then social media picked up, and then now that's where my time goes between regarding art and everything. But yeah, it's been quite a ride.
Sounds like it. It's just amazing to hear all these stories and how what can seem like a tiny little interest, whether it's a niche that we're seeing isn't being fulfilled, or a recruitment kind of part-time job, or just a little what we consider a hobby, and we're taken up on this little or given a little opportunity to just take up this little interest, and how this can build into something almost unforeseeable, let's say 10 years retrospectively. So it's quite fascinating to hear that. But in all of this, because they can seem like very different kind of domains, I'm curious if you felt that there were specific hurdles in to overcome when you first embarked on this additional kind of path, for example, with business and opening an online boutique, or having to manage even just business acumen or social media, and these kind of domain specific skills, or could be perceived as such. I'm curious if you feel like you've had to develop additional things that were within the musical training and external to that.
I have something to add to that. This is just personally speaking. I can't speak for everyone, but at least for me, confidence-wise, it was really tricky to start, even though I've had art part of my life, my whole life, to start, say, my own graphic design business. I actually felt like how I felt when I first got it started freelancing, and knowing like, what is my worth? Like, how much should I charge for this gig? Like, should I say yes to this? And like, bending over backwards for every client that comes my way. I actually felt like I was starting from scratch again. So it took a while to build the confidence, like, no, like I am of value. I am worth this, you know? So that was a little bit of a hurdle that I had to overcome.
I see some nods from the other panelists. Shall we pivot to, we can address this maybe first, I guess, because that's definitely something that comes up even for musicians within the musical field. I can't imagine bridging domains. Yes, Amelia?
Yeah, it's that really, really speaks to me for sure. I mean, I think imposter syndrome is very, very real. And a sort of unfortunate natural byproduct of our training, I find, is, I mean, I don't know about you, I've had some really great teachers, but I also came out of my musical training feeling, you know, sometimes you're built up, but you're not built up the same way that, like, you know, your yoga teacher tells you you're amazing and strong, right? Like, it's, you are always told you're not quite good enough. You got to be a little better. You got to keep, you know, there's always going to be someone, and the competition is so intense that it can really beat you down, and you can kind of feel like, well, you know, what do I really have to offer? How am I different from the other like 30 flutists at McGill who are all really talented? And so I find that kind of confidence is hard. And if you can find things in your life that will help you build it in other places, people who will make sure you value yourself properly. It's funny that, you know, the thing that Kristan said about charging properly for your work is something that we talk about in the crafting sphere all the time. People will, you know, come to me and say, like, that's such a beautiful sweater. How much does it, you know, can you make me one? How much would it cost? And I'll be like, well, the materials for that are about $175, and then my time at this. And I'm like, so handmade sweater is going to be $600. And people go like, oh my God. And that reaction, you know, really beats you down. So you have to find ways to value yourself and to know what that is. And I guess I'm not even making the best suggestions on how to do that, but it is something that I am betting is a universal truth for a lot of the people who are on this panel and who are listening as well, just to, you know, music is a tricky business, and it's incredibly competitive. And you do spend a lot of time hearing people say you're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. And it's this tricky thing where there's this paradox of it. I see your hand, Beth, don't worry. Where we're almost practicing for perfection, but we know perfection doesn't exist, because the whole point of music is that there's this never-ending journey of you know, improvement and searching and exploration. So there's this paradox of practicing for perfection, but trying to attain this thing that we know in the process isn't tangible. So it can be very difficult to navigate that internal those internal feelings of definitely imposter syndrome, or am I good enough? Am I, from yesterday, are my F sharps good enough? You know, am I doing X or Y as good as this person? Especially when sometimes those support systems aren't necessarily there to affirm that. Yes, Beth.
Yeah, it's just saying that a skill that was kind of not really there that I had to learn is also standing up for myself as a recruiter, working through when I was at John Molson as an MBA recruiter, through Unity as a senior recruiter, to Avid as the lead recruiter. I've had to do a lot of speaking with like executives, like senior VPs, people who are like the heads of these companies or the top echelons. That's something you're not taught in a music degree, nor in an education degree, because I have a BMUS and a BEd, not taught in either. So it's something where I had to learn how to build relationships, but at the executive level. So for me, it's something where I had to learn how to be concise, how to be concise, precise, and direct with these people, but also learning to stand my ground and learning that titles are just a title, and that yes, if you're standing up with, you know, the SVP of a 7,000 person company like Unity, or like a 2,000 person company like Avid, it's really making sure that you have everything collected, your data collected. It's stuff that they don't teach you in a music degree or in an education degree that I just happen to pick up along the way. But it's something I really, really use daily, especially that in negotiations with candidates, which also taught me how to negotiate for myself as a band leader. Like a lot of the stuff I do in my day job now transfers over to me, like negotiating, writing grants, on negotiating gigs, on negotiating with artists, on time planning. It's a really interesting crossover, but there's a lot of stuff that the music degree doesn't teach you when you become a recruiter.
Oh, it's yeah, and that kind of touches on a lot of the yesterday's first roundtable, what I wish I had learned in music school. But it sounds from what you're saying, there's also a benefit of almost exploring and being in another domain, that it allows one to cultivate skills that can be applicable within the musical domain itself. So I can imagine owning a business can help with the entrepreneurial side, or the communication skills of being a recruiter, and just kind of those soft skills or even tangible hard skills that can overlap. I'm curious, Melissa, if you wanted to follow up on either of those very large topics. I'm curious if you felt, or if there were any concerns and or fears, kind of what Kristan and Amelia touched on, when pursuing like another complementary boutique to your other kind of activities as a musician.
Well, I don't think because it was an oboe business, and I had been freelancing for so long, I had a lot of connections. So that in a way, I wasn't fearful of opening the store and it not being successful. I kind of was confident about that. But what was difficult was learning social media. I'm pretty stupid with social media. And then like doing the online store and like, what do I do? How do I do this? Like creating the website and reaching out, I guess in a way, being a freelancer, it did help reaching out to all these different businesses to be a dealer or get wholesale. It feels a little shameless sometimes, even though you're not asking them any favors. um, so like just trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm just started out the store and I'm valid. Please, please sell to me. So it was interesting to do that. That's probably the hardest part of the business, is just orders and having a relationship with different dealers or sellers. So yeah, definitely social media and online content. That was my struggle. And that was not taught to me in a music degree.
Luckily, Kristan is now teaching a course on that, so we know who to ask. I'm curious, since we're kind of opening a bunch of little topics here, I'm curious how you dealt with these kind of whether they were skill-oriented concerns, or even just confidence or self-perception, or these kind of feelings of imposter syndrome that everyone kind of goes through, how you coped with that, and if you had any advice for someone, or how you would what you would say to your 18-year-old self if you were embarking on this path and knowing that this would be something that would be a hurdle to hop over. Yes.
I would say, like, as far as the imposter syndrome, if I had to talk to my 18-year-old self, I'd say watch everyone and do as everyone else does. Like when I first started in recruitment, I had no background in recruitment. I was like, I start with a student ambassador, then I moved to like an assistant manager in recruiting, and I was like, I don't know. Look at the notes, look what was already there, and then find out how to do it. And then just keep doing it and keep watching everyone else. And that will help with the imposter syndrome. Again, as you advance, there's no textbook for these higher level roles that you get into. My role, like as it is, I came in and Avid did not have an early career program or a university recruiting program. I'm hiring everything up to VP down to interns. So there's no textbook on how to do it, but it's good to just watch everyone else and pick up and define yourself by that.
Yes, Amelia?
Agreed. There is a lot you can learn from observing other people, for sure, in both directions, I would say. I spent a lot of, again, I worked at a shop and was run by these folks who I would argue was maybe not the best match for a small business. And I was able to kind of see what they did that worked and what they did that didn't, or what they did that didn't feel right for me. Paying attention to your surroundings and interacting with people. It's something you don't always have a lot of time for in music school, but I like, listening to the three panelists talk today, like, there's still a lot that happened during my undergraduate and my master's degree that I take with me, people that I met, and interactions that I had that you don't always value in the moment, because really what you're there to do is practice and take auditions. And I mean, not everybody's stream is exactly the same. Mine, I was in a performance stream, so that was what the priority was of every person around me who was in my stream, and we, never practiced enough and all that stuff. But if you can kind of pay attention to what's going by at the same time, you just never know what might end up being something that's there. And if you can be open to that, and you can, and I guess I'm also talking to my 18-year-old self as well, and kind of value those things that feel like maybe they're just extra and not important, it can be massively important down the road.
Oh, yes, Kristan.
If there's something I could tell my 18-year-old self starting out with my art side of my business, it would be, you do not need a degree to validate you that you can do this. Because that's been something I've struggled with for many years, thinking I'm not good enough as Smojo, who has a degree in graphic design, because they've learned certain aspects that I've literally had to self-teach myself. And yeah, that's one thing I would, if I could go back, it does not define your success if you have a degree or not in that field.
Not have said that better.
Yeah, I don't have a degree in business.
Melissa, would you like to follow up anything on that?
Yeah, hard. I mean, I agree with everyone. I guess it's just like, don't be afraid to work hard and make connections. And if you don't ever win, Principal Oboe of New York Phil, it doesn't mean that you are a failure, even though that's what we work towards in our music degrees. There is a way to make a living and be successful by having a wide reach with different careers, or even different pockets in the same career. Like that would have been something I would have liked to hear as an 18-year-old. Just like, it's possible to make it and be successful and have a million jobs.
And I'm just so glad you're saying that, because I think maybe all of us here would agree. I will speak for myself that I also think that's something I wish I would have heard, that the path of being a musician doesn't and often isn't just singular work. It often involves wearing many, many, many different hats, often things we can't conceive of when we're, let's say, in our early 20s, and then later down the road, we adopt something else. And so I think it's just really refreshing and so important that we are highlighting how sustainability can be built and cultivated to kind of pursue something we really love and enjoy. So rotating, kind of pivoting to all these different skills that we're discussing, that, oh, I don't have a business degree, or I don't have a social media like acumen, or, how do you develop things that you feel like you may want to brush up on? What are your first steps, and how did you go about kind of cultivating these new skills to complement whatever you felt was necessary to pursue? Don't rush. Melissa, what would you? Yes.
For me, it's like, reach out to the people that know what they're doing, aka Amelia. So don't be afraid to ask if someone seems to know what they're doing with social media. Ask them, and maybe they'll show you some things. And then it just takes a little bit of creativity and some time, mainly.
No, it's amazing, because I can sometimes we can have this conception that we need a business degree or really formal business acumen to open a business. But I'm just curious, yeah, how that seems really inspiring. I saw Beth's hand up.
Yeah. So for me as an artist, when I got into this whole world and learning how to promote myself as an artist on the creative side, I looked at who else is like me. Again, in jazz, you don't have a standard rep. You're playing a lot of your own music. You're playing a lot of your own compositions. I was like, okay, well, there is to name it, like, there's, I identified 5 who are like actually classmates of mine at McGill, but who also went on to very successful careers after McGill performing. So I said, okay, what are these 5 artists doing? What does their social media look like? What does their booking look like? And they had managers. I self-managed as far as being an artist, So I said, okay, well, they're playing here, 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 here. I'm gonna go reach out to here, 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 and here, and actually go, send in my music and go from there. And then also, as far as social media goes, I went, what are they doing? What kind of videos are they posting? Okay, great. Who's tagged at the end of their video as the production team of their videos? Okay, great. I'm gonna go reach out to them and say I want a video like that. And that's what I did. I identified who's like me, and then how do I tailor that to myself?
No, that's I think that's really important too, to be able to identify one's strengths and to have an idea of where we're going, and to be able to kind of spot like, oh, I kind of want maybe what this person, I have this, I kind of appreciate what this lifestyle looks like, or this domain, and to be able to have the, the ability to go for that. Yes, Amelia?
Yeah, it's to develop a little bit on what Beth said. It's you have resources all around you everywhere, and they don't look like textbooks. Sometimes they look like teachers, but not always. And they're the cool thing about getting a music degree means you are in a very, very, very creative atmosphere with some really interesting people who are doing some really cool things. And it might just be, they're sketching in their sketchbook at in residence or whatever, but there will be people all over the place. I think about the friends I have from school or the colleagues I've met who do amazing things. Allow yourself to be inspired by that. Ask them what they're doing, learn what they're doing. I've been watching Kristan ever since, because Kristan and I were at McGill at the same time, a few years apart. I left before she did, but I just the whole time always been like, God, that's cool. And it's one thing that I have talked about quite a bit. I've never said this to Kristan, but I've always been like, what she's doing is amazing and really interesting. But to me, it was how do I put this nicely? I never really thought we were that interesting. I've been in classical music for so long. Everyone around me, I was like, yeah, that's what we do. And watching her do that, my husband's not a musician. He's a guitar player. He'll pick it up, but he doesn't have training. And I showed him some of Kristan's videos, and he was like, oh man, that's so cool. And I was like, it is cool. But it was something that I was so used to, and I didn't value it properly. I didn't understand that what I was doing, making music with people in an undergraduate degree in a creative city like Montreal, what a privilege to be around such interesting, cool people, and allow yourself to be inspired by that and keep those connections alive and see what people are doing that make you excited. Because I did not properly value, the fact that she can sit down and do a cool cover on harp or something. I'd be like, yeah, that's neat. I heard people do, I had a friend who would play her viola sideways like a ukulele, and it was so sweet and beautiful. And I was like, great. And I just didn't think more about that and what value that has, And so we take things for granted, I think.
I think that's a very important thing to hear, to the valuation of the little things, especially when they're domain specific, right? Because we can be surrounded by something, and it's like living in your own city, and when people visit it and they're like, oh, this thing's amazing. And then you've seen it 1,000 times, I've never noticed it. So it's almost like being in your own city, in your own place, and with visit at like a tourist's eyes, to appreciate those little things.
That's very well said. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Just to add to that, that's exactly what I teach my students. Like, you have no idea, people are so interested in the behind the scenes, in the basic things that we think are like, well, this is daily stuff, like tuning your instrument. Like, people are, I literally posted a video of me plucking the lowest string on my harp and the highest string, and I got like 6 million views. And I don't get it. I don't get it, but it works. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to follow up and say, I saw one, I think last night, of you moving your harp.
Oh yeah.
How does one transport a harp? So the things we might take for granted, but yeah. So,
I just wanted to backtrack to add to the question of like, sorry, it's on the tip of my tongue. Of like what we do to improve ourselves when we haven't studied it formally, like how to get better. Just to share like what I've done. Art, I feel like it was observing other people, looking at other people's art, especially when I got into calligraphy. I knew I loved it when I first started, but I knew I was not good at it because I would look at everyone else's calligraphy. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I want those strokes like that? How do they do that? And I watched YouTube video after video, like tutorials. I watched videos explaining the different nibs that come with the pen and the different types of ink. And I went down the rabbit hole of like trying to find the best ink and the best paper and everything. And then I practiced, loads of practice. And I feel like that's how I also improved at my art, and how I continue, and I still am continuing to this day to improve at everything I do, even graphic design. If someone would look at my Google search history, it would literally be like, how to do XYZ on in design. Like I'm still looking things up. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And for social media, like, even though I've built my network up to where it is now, my channel is up to where it is now, I had to start from ground zero. Like, I started from zero. I've always enjoyed making videos, and I've always been active posting. But when I first started like going full time for it, I had to learn along the way. I watched a ton of videos, like a ton, like literally hundreds of like tips and hacks and things of like what you can do to improve your channel, how hashtags work, the algorithm, like learning about like the marketing aspects as well, like to the point of like the color of shirt that you wear actually makes a difference in how your video performs. Like, there's so much behind the scenes that go on. And I've learned along the way. Like, for example, for a whole year, I was filming at not the highest quality on my cell phone. Didn't even know that I could go in and change that. And I learned afterwards. And then my video quality improved lots. But I think it's just a learning process. You learn along the way, and you also witness like what other people are doing and kind of take from that.
So really, really welcome to, like, thank you for that. So like, to be curious and to not be afraid of asking questions, even if it's to Google or to someone around you, even if it seems like the smallest thing, like what is a hashtag for? How does it work? I'd be curious to see everyone's Google search history, you know, like how to, I mean, I do that myself as well. Like, if I have a question about something, you know, if I don't have a friend that I can quickly, I won't bother by asking a silly question like that, you know, Google is always there. On that note, I'm curious because we've talked a lot about developing skills and complementary directions for these domains, whether in business, recruitment, content creation, social media. I'm curious if you find that there are what aspects of your music degrees have helped or overlapped with these disciplines, whether they're soft or explicit hard skills. So I start with Beth.
So I would say I'm not afraid of being in front of like crowds. When I was doing university recruitment for McGill and for Concordia, I had a lot of public speaking. So I had a lot of giving tours, but also speaking to groups of like up to 100 people. And I had no fear of getting in front of a group and talking about stuff. And I never ever had note cards in front of me. Like, I had PowerPoints with just like 2 or 3 words on it, and I could just talk. And again, I think it might be like the improv nature of my area of being a jazz musician and not wanting to be scripted and just being completely, you know, off the cuff, knowing how to just improv and go with it. Obviously not improv. I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't need to have something scripted in front of me. So I think that also came in handy very, very well, as well as the being able to be a flexible personality. So again, in recruiting, you meet a lot of different people, and you meet a lot of people who, again, sometimes I'm working with people who are engineers, like software developers, engineers. Sometimes I'm working with salespeople. Sometimes I'm working with, you know, executives. Sometimes I'm working with university students. So I really a flexible personality, because for me as a jazz musician and a composer, I've had to hire, you know, up to 20 musicians and negotiate like schedules, like doing doodles and negotiating their time as well as my time, as well as, you know, making sure the personality fits are right and reading people's body language. So for me, it's something where I have learned to read body language. I've, the being in front of lots of people, I have no fear of that at all. So the public speaking, the presenting, the events, nothing that at all. And also the negotiating part, being a musician, I think both sides, because I knew how to negotiate as an artist already, because again, booking my own bands and negotiating with rooms. But at the same time, I learned even deeper how to negotiate when I got into talent acquisition, and I really, really had to negotiate to get, you know, different levels of talent into either Unity or Avid, to really negotiate salaries, you know, compensation, you know, benefits, all that. So it was something that they kind of went hand in hand, that there's some parts I had, but some parts just got reinforced, you know, on both sides.
No, it's really interesting, because it almost sounds like sometimes having these extra, you know, even a part-time job, doing something helps highlight skills that can be cultivated both ways. And we were kind of talking about it earlier, but that it's almost healthy and helpful to not only do like to be in a practice room for 10 hours a day, let's say, or to just, that there's so many skills that are involved in this cultivation. I see some nodding. I'm curious, Melissa, if you've felt that there are aspects of your music degree that have helped in the running of an online boutique or in the design or just any aspect of that.
Well, definitely being an oboist, for as long as I have been playing, which is 30 years now, like just the different schools that I've been to, getting like different music degrees, but also the freelancing aspect and having lessons with people, I get to know what people like to use for their oboe, like reed making stuff, or what they enjoy with the oboe. And I tried to kind of take like what everybody else wanted and also what I wanted and put it all together. So that obviously helps a lot is just the knowledge of the product. But like I think it also helped having part-time jobs in other fields that really, really helped with the organization and kind of the aesthetic of the business. And I also, during COVID, actually, no, it was before COVID, I got really into like makeup YouTube channels, like really into it. And so I kind of learned kind of the aesthetic that I wanted for pictures and videos, and also how even I package the orders of like kind of like what will please people and also what pleases me. So I was just trying to make every oboe player's fantasies come true because our products cost a lot of money, and often they're sent in like paper bags or like some cheap IKEA Ziploc, like not even a Ziploc, like cheaper than Ziploc brand. It's just like loose in a box. I'm like, ew, why? Like anyway, so what did the music degree help with? Well, obviously the oboe aspect. That's the big part of it.
But it's exactly that though, because sometimes we can overlook how having that niche knowledge can really help in that experience of, if you're an oboe manufacturer, that it does make an aesthetic difference if you're offering, let's say, cane in a paper bag versus something's beautifully packaged, or a nice case, like what the customer is looking for, what how that chain works. It's easy to overlook, but I think those are the beautiful things we need to hear sometimes to remind ourselves that it can be it can be right in front of us.
Right. And
mhm.
I don't deal with customers, like usually I just do it through messaging and everything, but obviously being a flexible person, and it does help a lot, and we learn a lot of flexibility in music and how to not be offended by things, even though it's very difficult sometimes.
I see Amelia's hand up.
Yes. I'm gonna listening to Melissa talk about this, so I thought was really interesting. One thing I want to add that's a skill that she massively learned, and she touched on it a little at the end there. For anyone who's been lucky enough to spend any time with her, she's very, very easy to get along with. And part of that comes from chamber music, orchestral music. That's my personal experience. Any kind of small ensemble, you cannot have a functional group, even just for one concert, if your attitudes are getting in the way, or you're not listening to the priorities of the people around you. And these are life skills that you'll use anywhere, in your romantic relationships and your friendships as well, but they're super important in a musical career, and they're incredibly important in business. And I have watched, Melissa mentioned she's flexible. I have watched her bend over backwards for her customers, sometimes to a point far past what I would ever do. But it is a wonderful way for people to have a relationship with you. And you can do this through social media as well, watching Kristan and her videos, part of the reason social media works so well is because the people watching the videos, the viewers, feel they have a relationship with you. And they feel you're their friend in some degree. They feel they know you. They feel a little bit of ownership over you. And that I know is a massive benefit for me as well. I have lots of customers who feel they have a personal stake in my business and they care quite deeply how well it does. They, they consider my store their local yarn store, and they refer to, it's their local cafe, it's their whatever. And being able to make that kind of connection and have that relationship with people has immense value. And that's certainly something that you can practice while you're in music school for sure. Like, we spend so much time alone, in a room by yourself, but leaving that room, going to make music with other people, what better way to work on your interpersonal skills?
Couldn't have said that more succinctly and on target. It's just fascinating because I'm a pianist, and so I spent probably more time playing alone than with people. But I can't agree more, because it's just such a critical part of that whole overlap. Kristan, I'm curious if you feel like there are particular aspects of your music degree that have influenced your graphic designing, your content creation, whether soft or hard skills.
Yeah, actually, I want to take a twist on that question and reverse it. So actually, my other areas of work have also helped my music degree. Beth spoke about speaking I think is something that you've developed. Actually, that was one of my insecurities. I can perform in front of thousands of people live and have no issue. But when it comes to like talking about what I'm performing and the concert, I get so nervous. And creating all these videos for social media has completely eliminated that. I went through, I think it was a year and a half where I had no live performances. And then I had my first like live concert, and I was, like the standard nervous, a little bit nervous to perform as one gets. And then when it came time to talk, for the first time ever, I didn't have to have like a bunch of cue cards in front of me to talk. I just talked like I was on video. I'm like, oh, this is so much easier now. So I developed that also through working with Leaf Music and writing so many emails. I've learned how to like interact with clients. And even though I had that skill before through freelancing, there's just like that next step up that just helped like make my email writing that much more better. And especially when I start getting brand deals in content creation, through content creation, I feel like I had a little bit of an upper edge because I'm also a freelancer. I've already been dealing with emailing clients, but also through Leaf Music and all those emails I've written, I knew how to like negotiate and how to speak with brands, when I feel like a lot of people who just kind of like fell into it doing lifestyle or whatever, they might not necessarily know how to like write a proper email. So I thought that was kind of cool, how like every skill that I have and that I use is kind of like helping everything grow equally. Yeah.
No, it's just so beautiful to hear this, that it can sometimes feel, and we were discussing this right earlier, the imposter syndrome, and feeling like, oh, if like some hesitation in embarking on something else other than this initial trajectory. But it sounds like they've been like extremely complementary, and that one has fed into the other in ways that are even unanticipated off the get-go, which is almost more empowering in this sustainability, because it can be very difficult sometimes as a sole freelancing musician to find that stability. So it's really just refreshing to hear how this has more pros than just a financial end, of that it can also make the music making part and these aspects even can help grow and cultivate this aspect of it as well. I'm going to pivot a tiny bit and just ask, I think, one final question before our little 2 final blitzes. How do you, there's 2 parts. How do you make connections in a new industry, for example, within business, in a yarn business? How do you find that clientele? And then this is part B, how do you find a work-life balance in these 2 domains? So they're slightly related, but a little bit. So let's say A and B. Yes, Beth. So how do you make connections? And then how do you find a work-life balance, aka how do you avoid burnout when you have two or more careers?
Yeah. So the first part, as far as finding connections, for me, again, it's the recruiter way. It's LinkedIn. I will say LinkedIn is not as effective for musicians. It's not a gig finding service at all. It's not anything for musicians to connect. Like I say LinkedIn, but I say it strictly as a recruiter. Actually, Avid came and poached me from Unity over LinkedIn. So they reached out to me over LinkedIn. They're like, "Hey, you're a musician. You use our products. You compose, and you use Sibelius and Pro Tools, and you're a recruiter, and you speak French, and you live in Montreal. Come work for us." And that was kind of Unity. I was kind of on my way out anyway because the hiring was slowing down. So I was like, okay, I'm looking to move on. Anyway, so that's again super, super, super effective in the recruiting world. It's all LinkedIn. But as I said, I only say that if you're in like a business field or if you are in talent acquisition, some sort of professional field. It's useless for musicians. That being said, on the other side, as far as managing work-life balance, it's making sure that you set aside each like time for each. Like, yes, I have a 9 to 5 job. Yes, it's 9 to 5 on my computer, Monday through Friday. But again, I'm making sure that during my lunch break that I separate from my computer and that I actually go do something else. That I make sure that my rehearsals are scheduled well into my schedule so that it's in my calendar. So I'm seeing every week as it comes up and I'm not overloading myself. So I'm saying, okay, well, what's really, 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 really important? Do I really want to, like, for me, my priority is my own gigs. So my own band, my own big band, like my own sextet, my own big band, that's top tier. That comes in priority, outside of my 9 to 5. Second tier is I have a student who has a Haitian, all-female Haitian soul funk band that I coach. That's I know it's very cool. It's Bella and Quinn. If you want to look them up, I'll put it down the chat. But again, that group, I've helped my students come up with that band and they're doing fantastic. And they just released an album with like a 10-piece band and it's all women. Very, very cool. So there's that. Third is like this corporate band I play with because again, it's corporate. It's sometimes fun. Like the pop music is fun. So that's my third tier. And then anything else, then like below that is like jam sessions or if there's any other projects, any other one-offs that come up, really kind of fit in there depending on how professional the gig is. Like again, if it fits between tier 1 and tier 2, I'm likely to fit it in. If it's down in tier 3, I don't know. Probably I would say no to the gig, if it's some sort of, gig that just doesn't fit. So for me, it's really invest my time, 1, in me, 2, in projects I really highly value, 3, in my corpo band, St. Royal, where I have fun. Of course, it pays money, but it's also fun music and great people. And then, as I said, one-offs that come where I'm hired as a hired gun in there. It really depends on where in those 3 tiers that hired gun gig falls.
Oh, it's really interesting to hear that perspective. Also, as you have a 9 to 5, which may be different, slightly different scheduling than owning a business or kind of something that may it requires someone to be on site or not, because everyone has different business models. So it's fascinating to hear that perspective where it just sounds like it really comes down to priorities and time management, which are, as we know, are very key as a musician as well. But no, thanks. That's really insightful. I'm curious if Amelia, because this must be really maybe similar or very different. I'm curious if you could share your thoughts on how do you make connections in a new industry and how do you find a work-life balance between these multiple hats?
In terms of making connections, it is really, we're taught, my mom is an employment lawyer and she was always like, networking, go and introduce yourself and, go and say thank you to that person and go and shake their hand. And I was a shy kid and did not want to have to do that kind of stuff. It does have, tons of value, obviously getting comfortable in your own skin and just going out and saying hi to somebody. And you don't have to go out and be like, hi, I run this business, I blah, blah, blah. You just go, it's, you can if you're comfortable doing that, but you can also just go out and meet people, be present in your community, be a face, be consistent, find events, find things that make you happy and go and do them with other people. So for me, you know, there are stitch nights around the city that you can go and join and sit with people. There are crafting events you can go and show up at. But I would just say be aware of that kind of thing and be open to it. Being open to experiences is a massive path to success, I would certainly have. But the flip side of that also, in terms of avoiding burnout, is to have hard boundaries. It's you know, like Beth was saying, she knows exactly what kind of tier things fall into. Knowing that kind of thing, especially before going into a situation, you might get an email for a gig. You know, when I finally started saying no to gigs, boy, did that feel good. I understand that there are spots we're in our lives where that's not a luxury that people can have, but protecting your mental health is massively important. One thing I will say I find really beneficial is that going and playing music for a week somewhere is a nice break from doing my other work. And so having the two businesses, I work well over 40 hours a week in total, but I don't feel that I do. I don't feel exhausted. And I think part of that is because they do kind of balance each other out. I can't necessarily say this is true for all of us, but because I'm doing two things that I genuinely really love, there are aspects of each that are exhausting that I don't want to do. But the two of them complement each other very well, so that I very rarely feel like I have courted burnout of any kind. And perhaps that's just a lucky aspect of my life, but having two very different things that sort of complement each other nicely is a real benefit.
And it seems like it sounds like you're able to draw energy from both to keep that high in a way, so that the little nitty gritty things that we all know exist everywhere don't have to kind of be at the forefront of each. Maybe Kristan, curious.
Yeah. So
You
I
have
have
some.
thoughts. I have some thoughts on work-life balance. I find it challenging. I think we all might struggle a little bit with it. At least I still struggle with this personally, but there are things that I do to try and combat it. I think burnout is a very common issue, especially within creatives. I've seen my own pattern. It seems I hit burnout twice a year. So that's much more than it was when I was freelancing. But I'm still learning, just because social media has been a fairly new venture in the past 3 years for me. So I'm still learning how to deal with that. But for me, I'm fine, just because my schedule is all self-run essentially, besides project deadlines that I've accepted. There's kind of like 3 categories of my day-to-day that I need to make sure are well balanced: is relaxing time, like break time, work time, and also like creative time. Even though being creative sometimes requires energy, and sometimes I just want to like sit on my couch and zone out. But if I'm just working and then relaxing, that's not enough for me. I need to make sure I also involve the creative. So now I'm being a little bit more protective of my time, and I'm not just booking out my work hours based on just income. I'm making sure to schedule some like relax time. Like drawing for me is really relaxing. Like I enjoy that. Doing some calligraphy, sitting down to my harp and just playing whatever I want to. That like rarely happens, but like I have to make sure I schedule that in. But I'm pretty adamant with breaks. I make sure to take at least 2 half days a week. If not a full day off, at least 2 half days. Rest is so important. And I teach this to my students as well. It's also good to like rest from your instrument if you can once in a while as well. And then I guess like when it comes to choosing the work, I do feel really blessed that I am in a place where I can say yes or no. I don't have to always say yes to every project that comes my way, but a friend of mine once told me this method of figuring out like, should I say yes to this gig? And it's just stuck with me, and I want to share it because I think it's just like a really great method of figuring out, even if you're just getting started with freelancing. When you're getting asked to do a gig, it needs to cover 2 of the 3 things in this list. Are the people going to be good to work with? Is the repertoire going to be good? And does it pay well? And if you only got one of those things covered, you might not want to say yes to that gig. Again, it depends on the scenario if it pays like really well. Yeah, that's kind of been how I've gone about picking and saying yes to work, especially when I've been more protective of my time.
Oh, and I think that's really important advice too, because it can be so difficult, especially the bit of having dedicated creative time, because it can be difficult when one's passion, when music becomes work, and how that can sometimes become almost less enjoyable because it becomes affiliated with this thing where the inherent joy of the process can get lost in the weeds when we're just, constantly practicing for this. I need to reach this deadline, I need to do that, I have this engagement. So it's really refreshing to hear that there are people, and how important it is to just carve out that time to just have fun, uh, to remind yourself maybe even why we're doing this. Melissa, I'm
So for making connections, there's a bit from social media. Hopefully there will be more, but essentially most of my business is all word of mouth, and also freelancing helps because them seeing my face, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Don't you own that business?" I'm like, "Yeah." So so um essentially it's all word of mouth. And then work-life balance. I haven't really figured that out yet. I basically wake up, start packaging orders, go to my gig, come back, continue packaging orders, and like trying to do other things. So I feel a little crazy now. What I've tried to do is only teach once a week downtown. That sometimes doesn't work. And currently I don't have any students at Queens, thank goodness, because I don't know how I would handle that. And yeah, and then being choosy with gigs, because we're fortunate enough to do that because we've been doing it as long as we have. And so I will take the gigs that maybe are in town, or maybe pay more, or allow some kind of fun and difference for me. Just different view.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, but mostly I still need to learn.
I think, or I don't know,
Coding
I don't want
came
to,
until midnight. It's not healthy.
I think it's an ever learning, ever developing process, this whole time management, and just even through life, I've found for myself just how priorities will shift. So something that was A tier may slip to A2 tier instead of A1, and things will just evolve, and it's constantly this adaptability, probably that's really important as well, and just figuring out um, how to fit that everything that's important to us in. I'm going to flip to our rapid fire, 2 questions for each of you. So if someone would really love to go first, the first question is, why are you in the music industry? And what is your definition of success in music? And is it different than when you were in undergrad? Yes, Amelia.
What was the first question?
Why are you in the music industry? Why are you a musician?
There'd be 2 answers to that. I'm a musician because it was what I was good at as a child. And it was fostered strongly in my family. And I'm a musician because it brings me a lot of joy. And to pair with that, I consider success as a musician someone who's happy. Exclusively. I don't care how much money they're making. I don't care how many gigs they have. If you are enjoying it, then that is success as far as I'm concerned, because I know a lot of people who do it who do not.
No, that's incredible to hear. I'm curious, is that different than when you were in undergrad?
Very much so.
And
Yes.
what, if I can ask, what was the definition of success in that period?
For me, it would have been a classic, can I make 6 figures? Can I have, can I buy a house? Can I, what kind of money can I make? What kind of prestige can I reach? How many people will admire me? How many students can I have? How can I achieve in those kind of classic type A situations? And it's completely changed. And the people, I can see a comment from Yolanda Bruno, who's a classic person who makes music, and and there's so much joy in it, you know, and she's infectious to be around, and she's a wonderful musician to play with. And I know, so I've known musicians who are unbelievably talented, and it is not, it's not fun. It's not fun because there's no joy. It's a funny thing.
No, yes, go ahead, Beth.
No,
Oh,
go
no.
ahead. Sorry,
Oh, no, I was
finish.
just going to say, it's just, again, there's that paradox, right? Of something, we go into something having this joy and passion, or being, you know, something draws us to it, because otherwise it would be, you know, there's this list from Roundtable 1 of the many things that musician has to do, and to be able to stay into it, it's a lot. So there's this paradox of going into it, and then sometimes we can lose sight of that joy or that creative time or that whole process. And it's just really refreshing, I think, to hear that sometimes. Yes, Beth. How is that? So why are you in the music industry, and what is your definition of success?
I'm in the music industry. It's funny because I started music in like grade 4, and it was something I was always passionate about, and I was always good at it. Like, it was always something that came easily to me, like from clarinet to saxophone to then adding most of the woodwinds except double reeds. And I was really someone who, again, just loved making music with other people. I loved the friendships I built. I loved working with other people. I loved exploring new music. I loved getting to really push in jazz. There's a lot of pushing the envelope. Even my music now crosses jazz with rock, with R&B, with soul. It's kind of like cinematic jazz influences in what I do. And I think that creativity and creating new sounds and new opportunities for people to hear what I have to put out. I think that's why, you know, why I do music, is just to share, you know, my creativity with other people, and it's something that comes easily to me. As far as success in the music industry, I think I do agree with Amelia. Like, if you're happy doing it, because there's a lot of people out there who are burnt out, who are cynical, who are, you know, yes, they'll go play the gig, they'll pack up their instrument, and they'll head home, and you'll never see them again. Like, that kind of people. Like, they do it, they go in, they play, they take home the paycheck, and that's it. So for me, I think, honestly, to be successful in music, yes, you need to be all about the whole package. You want to be networking, you want to be, you know, really going and making those interpersonal relationships. You want to be, yes, playing the gigs whenever you can, but to be successful, you want kind of the whole gamut. So you want to be able to be running yourself as a business, like you know, yourself as an artist, and booking your own gigs and booking music. Yeah, and be able to make those relationships and actually have fun with what you're doing. In music school, it would have been, for a jazz musician, it would be how many gigs are you playing, and how many festivals are you getting booked on, and how much are you touring. It's not that at all anymore.
How about no, thank you, Beth. It's really it's very different. It's just nice to have that complementary perspective from a jazz perspective, the jazz world as well, to see if sometimes different domains do or don't kind of have this valuation of what success is like in school. Whereas I remember Carson Becky yesterday saying his definition of success as a pianist was to play all the concerti with the orchestra at 1.5 speed, you know, faster than anyone else. So to see these parallels from across domains,
Yeah,
I agree, Jenna, that would be exhausting.
We don't have the symphony gig. Like, we don't have those symphony auditions and those symphony gigs and that stability. Jazz, we really have to be more like autonomous self-entrepreneurs. So yeah, the symphony gig is not in the jazz mindset at all.
How about you, Melissa? How would you answer the question, why are you in the music industry, and what is your definition of success, and has it changed since being an undergrad or a student?
Okay, so I'm in the music industry because I love music, obviously, but I'm also very stubborn. I had other ideas of what I wanted to do, but then someone told me that I couldn't make it in music, so here I am. So, and then success in business and music, I would say maybe I'm a little more old school, but the fact that I can make my living only doing music, basically, like if I didn't have my business, I would still be fine being a musician, and I think that is successful, but obviously you need to be happy while doing it. So hopefully you're still doing it because you love it. Um, but and also success is that I get to kind of have a little bit of every part of the music industry. So
Mhm.
I'm a successful freelancer. I have a position in an orchestra. I own this music store, and I teach, and it's kind of fun to have a little bit of everything. So to me, that's also my definition of success, is to be able to have a little bit of every part of the music industry.
No, that's really wonderful to hear and to kind of complement everything we've been discussing. I'm curious if this has changed since you were a student, kind of the direction or what this definition, how it compares to maybe 1, 2 decades ago.
When I was a student,
Yeah.
I thought I needed to win a big orchestra job, like a full-time, like that is your paycheck job. And um, in my undergrad, my teacher was like so successful at a young age. He had like not even graduated his undergrad when he won his big job. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself. I must win a job by the time I'm 21 or 22. And then every year I got older, it's just like I kept being in my head that like I'm not going to make it. I'm a failure. And it was really hard to accept that um, freelancing and finding other disciplines would also make me successful. I'm getting emotional because like it's also difficult because like so many years later, I then finally got a job, a full-time job, and then the orchestra folds. So it's it's really hard. It's hard to keep going. Um, but that's the most important thing. You need to be tenacious. You need to be stubborn. You need to be you need to love it and be motivated, and just you have to generate that for yourself. You can't rely on anyone else doing that for you. You have to want it, and you have to just go for it.
Oh, thank you so much, Melissa, for being so willing to be vulnerable and so like passionate about this, so stubborn about this. No, it's so meaningful to hear that. And I think it's so important to hear these things, regardless even how old we are sometimes. It just can be a nice reminder of just how those things can be valued. Um, shall we turn it over to Kristan?
Sure, I agree with you, Melissa. Like
Yeah.
stubbornness and the drive that we have as classical musicians is just like none other that I've seen before. And it's just like you need that. We need that to do what we do. To answer the questions, why am I a musician? Why do
Yes.
I enjoy music? Being in music, I thought about this in advance. I was writing down all these points. There's so many. So I agree with what everyone was saying. It makes us happy. It's fun. It's so much fun. I feel like I don't have to work a day in my life doing what I do. I love the interacting aspect of music, be it chamber music, orchestra, sharing videos on social media, or emailing people for graphic design. Like, I love the interactive aspect of that. I also love how it's a really unique path. It's great conversation at a party. Like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a harpist. Whoa. And I just love like the exciting projects that come my way. You never know, as a freelancer, you never know what's next going to come. Like, where will the next email take me, kind of thing. But yeah, I also love the schedule. It's like very freeing, setting my own schedule. Even though I have deadlines to work with, I can choose if I want to like sleep in one day, or if I want to stay up late and get something done so I can have a day off the next day. Like, it's very forgiving. The question about success, what is my definition of success? I've been thinking about a lot recently, and it has changed. So when I was in university, my definition of success was either winning a job in a major orchestra or getting a professorship position. I didn't think there were any other jobs And then when I started freelancing, I'm like, okay, this is what I got to do in the meantime to like make way, try and make some money before I win that job. And like, that's just what it is. That's the only path. And I have thought that for a while until my freelancing took off. And I'm like, oh, like I'm making a pretty good living and I like my schedule and I'm still doing orchestra and like, this is great. And then COVID happened. And then I'm like, oh, now social media is a thing. And I'm like, I'm doing even more work than I was when I was freelancing. Like, this is the next thing. And I guess orchestra, even though I still love it, it kind of went by the side and my goals changed, my goals shifted. So it shifted from success was winning a job in orchestra when that wasn't a thing anymore. My then definition of success was like making enough to be comfortable or making an X amount of money in the year. And actually more recently, when I passed that amount, I thought about it and I was like, wait a second, what is my definition of success now that I've reached that? Like, what now? Like, what's next? Like, do we just keep growing more? Like, what's the next step? And I went through a phenomenal experience this fall working with a writer to write my biography. And part of the process was she gave this amazing, like 20 more, like a 8-page questionnaire of like questions to ask me about everything about my career, my childhood, music involved, and just like my why essentially. And that was another moment where I actually quite pivotal moment for me when she also asked the question, what does success mean to you? And it got me thinking, it's not about what I make. It's if I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing and I'm like enjoying it. So now my definition of success is if I'm able to earn enough doing what I love to do, and that's okay. That goal has changed, and like 10 years from now, maybe I'll want a different goal, and that's okay. I think goals are allowed to change, and just because my goal of wanting to be a harpist in a major orchestra changed doesn't mean I failed. So yeah, I learned.
Thank you. No, it's so excellent to just hear all these different perspectives. But what I love about this question through the whole weekend so far is that everyone lights up when they talk about why am I in the music industry, and it's just so wonderful to see. And it really sounds like there are a lot of not generalized, but it sounds like there's a lot of the crux of it is like joy, sustainability, but also how this comes from an openness to experience, adaptability, curiosity, and almost like setting to have this kind of being okay with not having a finite discrete goal, but many options that could fill that definition. So something that brings me joy, but is sustainable, that is adaptable, that kind of suits what we were defining as those criteria. I'm gonna just wrap this up with a few Q&A questions. Thank you all so much for taking the time and all these wonderful, insightful, inspiring, heartfelt responses. Let's take a look here. Okay. So our first question is from Jeremy Boudreau. So social media is a fantastic tool to power up your business, your musical career, and generally the way people perceive you. But at the same time, I personally have a strong disdain for it and would like to ask if it's an unfortunate must for musicians today, or if there may even be alternatives. I will open this up to anyone who would like to dive into this. So is social media an absolute must, despite our personal relationship with it? Yes, Melissa.
For freelancing, I come from an older age, so it was all word of mouth, how you played, how you were as a colleague. And I think that's still very real today. I think having an amazing social media presence does absolutely nothing with your colleagues. So it's still word of mouth for a classical musician anyway, to play in orchestras and other gigs around town. Social media, I feel, is helpful for businesses, obviously, and it is helpful for if you're like wanting to branch out and have other projects with other creative people and musicians, but I don't think it's a must for freelancing.
Amelia?
I'd second that. I hear you on the disdain, Jeremy. It's exhausting. I do not find that it comes to me naturally. I'm comfortable enough in front of the camera, but I just can't be bothered a lot of the time. I have absolutely zero social media presence as a flute player. I can't imagine I would get more work if I did. I have seen colleagues whose careers have been furthered by their social media presence, but I don't think it's tons of them. Again, I mean, if I'm going to stick to my guns about being happy, if it's not something that feels authentic to you, I probably wouldn't bother. I'm not going to claim to be knowledgeable or have enough foresight to say that it's essential for you, but I can say that if you don't like doing it, people will be able to tell. And you will also not be having a good time. It'll be spotty. It'll be what it is. And so, you know, it depends on the kind of work you're doing. For my yarn business, I have to, and I don't mind. It's a little bit more joyful there and less competitive. But at the end of the day, you know, you do it when you can, and it's an area I'm never really doing a good enough job in, I can tell. But I'm, you know, not going to stay up late at night thinking about it. Do it if it feels right to you, but if not, I wouldn't put your time there.
Would anyone else like to, Beth, Kristan?
Coming from a like the background of, you know, myself being, you know, promoting my own gigs, my own shows, I would say that it is important if you are promoting your own project. If you're trying to get people to the concert halls and you want people to come see your show, or like if you are self-producing, or if you are a leader or like a front person of the band, then you should have a social media presence. If you are a side person, as we say in the industry, like in the small bands, if you're a side woman, side man, and you're just, you know, playing a backup instrument and you're there, social media, not really as important. You should have like just a Facebook account, like where people can reach you. You don't have to go like and have an artist page, but you should have at least your own Facebook profile. I know I get a lot of gigs over Facebook, just on my personal account. People just like, hey Beth, like just like, you know, from friend page to friend page, she's like, hey, just like, are you available for this gig tonight or next week or whatever? So yeah, you should have your own personal page, but other than that, you should be looking at, it really depends on what you're trying to promote. But if you're just playing in large ensembles, then you don't need one.
And Kristan, what's your take on this?
Well, I feel like you guys already know my take on it. I've always felt, even before my social channels took off, I always felt social media is very important. And I saw that early on when, at a time in my life where I was winning a lot of competitions, I just, you know, as everyone did, like, oh, won this competition, you'd share it on Facebook, just my personal page, you know. And I feel like it was because of that, I saw other some musicians were noticing that, and I actually got asked to play a concerto because of that. They saw I was winning competitions with this piece, like the concerto. So that kind of did it for me. I'm like, oh, there's like potential here for, if I'm sharing enough, people see that I'm active enough, like, you know, the whole C and B scene aspect of being a freelancer, it was part of it for me. So I've always been a fan of it. Just to like offer some encouragement, if you are looking to start doing social media, it doesn't have to look like what I do. Like, I post daily and it's a lot of work. It's literally a full-time job. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to post daily once a week, once every 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be often, just to show that you're active, that you're there. Also, you don't necessarily have to show your face depending on what you want to do. I know a lot of people are like camera shy. There's other options. You don't have to just be up forward. You don't have to be doing trending, relevant videos. It could just be whatever you want to be doing. And like someone mentioned, it being genuine, it's so important. But yeah, I really think it's a really helpful tool to bring in more work, and also to promote whatever product or concert or whatever else that you want to share. But it also really depends on like what you want for results. Like, why are you posting? Is it just because you want to get views? It shouldn't ever be for that. But is it because you want to sell something? Is it because you generally love your art and you just want to share it with the world? Like there should be a reason to why you're posting. And then you kind of like can let that drive your content. But the most important part is you want to make sure you're having fun with it. So yeah, have fun.
And there's a follow-up question directed for you, Kristan, from Barrett. He's asking, how long did it take for your platforms to grow to such numbers? And how has it helped your career today? And any tips for improving content?
Yeah. Okay. So one second. Where's the question here? How? Is it in the chat? Is it in the Q&A?
It's in the Q&A box.
Okay. I don't see it. Sorry. What was the first question again?
Oh, how long did it take for your platforms to grow to such high numbers? And how has it helped your career today? And do you have any tips for improving content?
Yeah, so it took about, it was pretty, I'm going to say when I started posting to TikTok, that was my first channel where I was adamantly starting to post regularly at too. Oh, I'm trying to think of the time frame. I think it was like a year. I grew 800,000 followers within a year, maybe, I think. But I started April 2020, posted my first video to TikTok. Then I posted like one more in the summer. And then it was like in September, that's when I started posting daily. So you can do the math, 2.5 years, I guess 3 years, 4 years, to grow to 2.5 million on TikTok. Instagram and Facebook, that actually took a little bit of time because I was a little bit scared to jump from TikTok to Instagram and share the same type of content because I knew professional musicians followed me on Instagram and Facebook. Also, like contractors followed me. I was like a little bit scared of like, what are they going to think of me playing like little diddly video game music? But actually, it was a huge hurdle for me to overcome. Anyways, that's a whole other story. But I ended up starting on Instagram and Facebook, recycling videos, resharing them there. I think that was 2022. I think in January 2022, I think. So that's how long it took me to grow those channels. How has it helped my career? I mean, I've had so many opportunities come my way because of it. I've gotten asked to be on albums. I've been asked to do lectures, guest lectures. I'm teaching a course now on digital content creation at the university. Like these are things that have come my way because of social media. I've had even like major bands write on my, like Metallica reached out to me and wanted to use my video on their like anniversary concert, like really cool opportunities like that. And just like collaboration projects that would not necessarily come my way if my videos weren't getting out there to the public. Yeah, was there another question after that?
Just a quick follow. There was any tips for improving content?
Oh, tips practice. Just post everything. Don't wait till it's perfect. Just get it out there, post it, and post, like if you can post daily, and why I say post and then instead of just make it and just leave it in your drafts, you'll get feedback in a way, even though we're not asking the audience for feedback, but you'll see what works and what maybe doesn't work, and also what you enjoyed creating, and maybe videos that you didn't enjoy creating as much, maybe they took too much time or whatnot. But that's kind of how I learned. Because I post it so much, like when I got started, I was posting 3 times a day. It was a lot. Now I do maybe 4 to 5 times a week. But I think just post like the frequency. If you can do as much as you can, you're going to learn real fast.
And thanks for all of the responses to the Q&A. Thank you to all of the participants for the Q&A questions. It just seems to round off a really wonderful permeating theme of kind of even in sustainability to find to find things that bring you joy, but to also carve out that time, have that curiosity to see that skills can overlap and be built through practice by just kind of going for these aspects of these multidisciplinary pursuits. So we're going to end our roundtable here just to make sure we have a good lunch break before our next session. Big thank you to all of our panelists wealth of knowledge, inspiration, your generosity for your time. And thank you to everyone joining in. So you see here we have a schedule for the rest of today. At 12:30, we'll be having a workshop number 2 about what is community music, led by Dr. Amy Hillis, one of the co-hosts of this event. Then at 2:15, these are EST times. We'll be looking at using your music degree as a foundation, where we'll be exploring music-related fields that don't necessarily center around public performance. So things like instrument repair, sound engineering, music therapy, and arts administration. And then at 4 p.m., we'll have a closing panel with CBC Music's Tom Allen on the real value of a music education. And this will be with the event organizers, myself, and Lara and Amy in conversation with Tom, and we'll have a final meet and greet at 5 p.m. So thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. A big thank you again to all the panelists, and we hope to see you later.